Hi everyone, welcome to the Bidding Bootcamp. My name is Carmen Anna Henke and I'm a Senior Account Manager at Google. And together we're going to deep dive into everything value-based bidding. But before we get started, here are a few housekeeping notes. First of all, submit your questions throughout the live stream if anything is unclear. We have our product specialist on standby to answer your questions live. Secondly, have a look at the additional materials provided. Third, please share your feedback at the end of the session, as we're always looking to improve our content. And fourth, you can also rewatch the session later on demand and share it with your colleagues. Now, let's get started. Today, we're going to cover 6 modules. The first one is starting a value-based bidding project. The second one is 3 steps of a value-based bidding project. The third one is value-based bidding for lead generation. Then, omnichannel bidding scenarios. Fifth, the reporting, troubleshooting, and seasonality topic. And the sixth and last one is how to create a test, learn, and scale the environment. First, how do you even start a value-based bidding project? Let's first understand why one might want to transition to value-based bidding, or VBB as we call it for short. All your customers are different, and they might want to buy various products or services from you. Some are true fans and will stay with your brand for a very long time. Some might only want to purchase once. An example could be a newly married couple that is booking a cruise for their honeymoon, compared to a retiree who will go on a cruise every summer. While all customers are valuable, it might make sense to bid differently for them. You want to make sure you're definitely not missing out on high-value potential customers. As you can see here, each customer is assigned a different value per bid. Ultimately, this will drive improved performance and more value for your business. Note that value can mean different things to different businesses. We'll dive a bit deeper into that later on. Now, how much uplift can you expect? According to our analysis, customers that switch to value-based bidding strategy see on average an improvement of 14% in total value. So you need to decide whether you want to drive volume or value. If all customer conversions bring equal value to you, for example, you're driving app installs or signups for your newsletter, a volume-based TCPA strategy might make sense. But if you want to distinguish between different conversions, you should consider a value-based target ROAS strategy. Value-based bidding strategies can work for businesses of all shapes and sizes. If your business has more than 15 conversions in 30 days, you can use value-based bidding strategies. Let's look at an example of one of our advertisers. DSUP is an online marketplace for reselling pre-loved designer furniture. DSUP used different bidding strategies in order to attract different audiences based on the goal. From their seller community, they utilized CPA to drive volume, whereas for their buyer community, they used ROAS to bring high-value customers. This led to increase in customer acquisition by 60% and ROAS by 30%, which meant that per €1 spent, the return was a whole €9. Quite impressive, to say the least. Now, of course, there are cases in which value-based bidding might not be the best option. Let's look at some examples. Firstly, you don't have enough conversions for the algorithm to work with. Our rule of thumb is, as mentioned earlier, 15 conversions within 30 days. Secondly, as discussed, if volume of conversions is more important to you than value, then it might make sense to stick to another bidding strategy. Finally, as long as there's a pattern in your conversion rates and values, VBB can handle that variability. But when there are very extreme outlier values that cannot be excluded from your data, it might become an issue. Let's dive deeper into choosing the appropriate bidding setup to make VBB work for you. You decided to use value-based bidding and are ready for the transition. Now you're at a step where you need to decide which bid strategy to use. Let's look at the options. Option 1 is utilizing maximized conversion value without a target ROAS. This would be recommended for campaigns with a defined daily budget that is getting spent consistently, or when you launch a new campaign and don't have a ROAS estimate yet. Option 2 is maximize conversion value with a target ROAS. This is recommended when you have efficiency targets and works best if you have uncapped, flexible budget that can adapt to the demand. Now, how do you define what target ROAS to choose? In case you missed this, I recommend rewatching the Ads Academy on marketing effectiveness, where my colleagues talked about the theory behind response curves and finding an optimal balance of spend to results. In practice, you can use a number of tools available within your Google Ads account that help you to set the optimal target. You can look at your historical ROAS over the last 30 days or see what the UI recommends in the recommendations page. You can also use your performance planner in order to forecast for up to 18 months ahead with various target and budget scenarios. Finally, some advertisers can use the bid simulator to estimate how different bids might change your ad's weekly performance and help find the balance between volume and value. Now that you have decided what bidding strategy you're going to use and what ROAS target should you start with, let's talk about the data. Your algorithm is only as good as the data that you feed it with. Firstly, let's define what value means to your business. For most businesses, that is revenue, profit, or lifetime value of their customers. Revenue is the easiest value to optimize towards, but might not always reflect your business objective. Your business model and the goal you want to optimize towards will define what data your algorithm will need. Let's look at a few examples. Example 1. You are selling pet supplies both in-store and online. This means that you're an omnichannel business, so you would need data on both the e-commerce transactions and the store sales. We'll talk more about omnichannel bidding in Module 4. You want to optimize for profit, you would need margin data. Example number 2, you are selling pet insurance, which is a lead gen business, and have a revenue growth objective. You would need data on your lead journey, final deals value, lead scoring mechanisms, etc. We'll talk more about that in module number 3. And example number 3, you're selling pet food online as a subscription service. You would like to optimize towards lifetime value. You would need to feed the algorithm data on average or predicted lifetime value, customer churn, and so on. As you can see here, we have different business models with different goals. It's essential to understand that in order to make value-based bidding work for you. Now, let me focus on profit bidding. While that might align best with your wider business goal, calculating a margin per purchase can become quite complex. There are a lot of factors to consider, such as manufacturing, storage, and shipping. We suggest that you work with your finance team to get approximate numbers. Another factor to consider is returns. We have seen advertisers who manage to incorporate historical return rates by product category or train a machine learning model on it to incorporate return predictions. This helped them reduce overall number of returns as well as increase the average order value. One way to do this is by using conversion adjustments. We'll cover them in the next module. Now, a few words on customer lifetime value bidding. In theory, understanding the lifetime value of a customer should be the North Star for every business. In reality, however, this is also the most difficult to calculate and integrate correctly within the algorithm. CLTV strategies work well for subscription models or apps-heavy retailers, where A user doesn't need to be reacquired for each transaction. For other businesses, we recommend starting with revenue or profit bidding. Another goal that is a top priority for business executives is new customer acquisition. With Google's new customer acquisition goal, you could bid higher for new customers compared to existing ones while optimizing conversions for both new and existing customers. According to our data, advertisers who used the new customer value mode improved their ROAS by 9% and the new customer ratio by 5%, and saw acquisition costs for new customers reduced by -7% on average. When you have defined your value, audit the existing data and potential data gaps. Ask yourself, what type of data do we have available? Where does that data currently live? Who owns the data? Is this data available immediately when a customer interacts, or is there a delay? At what level of granularity is it available? And what data is missing? Data limitations can be one barrier to overcome as part of a VBB project. However, there are other complexity factors. The flatter your organization is, the more access you have to tracking and measurement, and the better your data capabilities, which will in turn make the project a lot easier for you. For complex projects, you might need involvement from data science, business intelligence, finance, product or brand owners, and potentially even CFO or CMOs. More straightforward projects can usually be delivered by the digital marketing team themselves. In any case, allow yourself time to deliver this project. We have seen such projects last anywhere between 1 and 18 months. Remember that both your agency partners and your Google team are here to support you. In the second module, we'll look at 3 steps of value-based bidding projects. Step number 1, collect the right data with conversion tracking. Step number 2, assign conversion values. And step number 3, switch bidding strategy to value-based bidding. First, let's talk about collecting the right data and doing so with durable measurement foundations. Durable measurement is vital as the digital ecosystem continues to evolve. As users opt for privacy, cookies and device IDs are becoming harder to rely upon. At the same time, predictive AI allows advertisers to fill in those gaps using their proprietary first-party data, which becomes a competitive advantage. There are 3 main Google solutions you should incorporate to measure effectively. Google Tag allows to collect data on relevant conversion events across your website, app, or phone. Consent Mode respects user choice and adjusts the ways Google Tag works with cookies. Enhanced Conversion matches hashed user data, for example, email, between your and your Google systems to improve accuracy of measurement. Let's talk about conversion actions you are going to optimize for. One of the most important steps in digital marketing is deciding what to measure. Rather than measuring every single customer interaction, think about ones that will help you to understand how likely customers are to buy. To get a complete overview of your customers, tag both micro and macro conversions along the customer journey. For example, if your final conversion is a sale, you can also tag actions like reading a review or signing up for a free trial. However, be sure to prioritize the conversion closest to your business goal as the primary action for bidding optimization. Set up conversion actions in your Google Ads account by navigating to the Goals section of the menu. Choose the lower funnel ones that you want to optimize towards and choose your primary action. Smart bidding will only optimize for the conversion actions which are included in the conversions column in your campaigns. The data for all of your conversion actions can be found in your All Conversions column. Now let's talk about integrating your data. There are a number of solutions helping you connect your conversions back to Google Ads that drove them. Depending on your setup, you might be using a combination of them. Today, I'm not going to dive into all of them, but you can learn more about these solutions using the materials attached. Google Tag can capture conversion actions and their dynamic values like checkout revenue and pass it back to Google Ads. Check whether your tags are properly set up to capture those transaction values and that they're showing correctly in your Google Ads account. The newly launched Data Manager simplifies first-party data importing and activation. For example, you can import modeling data directly from BigQuery or Google Cloud. Feed conversion data to Google as soon as possible, ideally daily or at least within 7 days. It allows the algorithm to learn faster and to start delivering better results for you faster. You can use automated uploading methods by using Data Manager or Google Ads API. Here are 3 best practices to remember about bringing data into Google Ads. Do it frequently, ideally daily. Measure every step of the customer journey and share data about the entire business, not just your online business. All in all, the more up-to-date, holistic view of data that you feed into Google Ads, the better the algorithm will be. Now that you've learned about all the various ways you can track and integrate your data with Google Ads, let's talk about value assignment. There are 3 different approaches to assigning values. You can use actual, proxy, or predictive values. Actual values are the real values that a conversion delivers to your business. For example, a transaction revenue that got recorded on a website. Proxy are estimates for the value of a certain conversion. For example, you might estimate that a phone call is worth 20 euros to your business and a lead form is worth 50 euros. We'll talk about defining those values in the next module. Finally, you can use predictive values that are calculated for each conversion based on a variety of signals captured, for example, a lead score. Values can be static, each conversion has the same value, or dynamic, each conversion has a different value. You must report 2 or more different values to your conversion actions to use value-based bidding. It can be a combination of several conversion actions with static values. For example, every phone call lead is worth 20 euros, every lead form submission is worth 50 euros, and you're optimizing for both. Or it can be conversion action with dynamic values. For example, unique revenue value reported for each online sale or unique lead scores for each lead form submission. We touched on how you can integrate real data like profit and revenue. Predictive value often requires quite advanced data science skills. You can find case studies of brands and agencies that managed to build those models in additional materials. But for now, I'd like to focus on static proxy values. You can implement static values for your existing conversion actions directly into Google Ads. Use conversion value rules alongside static values to further differentiate your customers. Remember that Google bidding algorithm already takes a number of signals into account, such as device, location, and time of day when we're optimizing for value. Conversion value rules can provide an additional important information for that algorithm. Let's look at how you could apply conversion value rules in practice with a few examples. So, you are a UK-based bank focused on lifetime value and know that Londoners spend twice as much overtime as those living outside of London. In that case, create a geo value rule that says if location is London, then multiply value by 2. Or you're a retailer focused on profit and have done research showing that users in market for running apparel are of higher value. You want to optimize towards the higher value running apparel users. Create an audience value rule that says if user is in market for running apparel, then multiply value by 1.5. The third example is you are a financial services provider who wants to optimize towards LTV, and you know that existing customers with brokerage accounts invest more. So you would like to value those customers twice as much. Create an audience value rule that says if user is on brokerage account audience list, then multiply value by 2. The last example, a lead generation business who knows that mobile users are worth on average $50 more than users converting on other devices, but can't send those on the fly when the conversion tag fires. Create a device value rule that says, if device is mobile, then add $50 to the conversion value. Let's look at a case study from one of our advertisers, Sector Alarm. They're a provider of home security solutions. Their staff availability fluctuated frequently across various localities around France. In order to adapt the demand from the ads based on their sales rep availability, they wanted to be able to adjust the volume of incoming leads. Working with their agency, they applied conversion value rules based on postal codes. As a result, they doubled the amount of meetings booked, reduced the cost per meeting by 40%, and 75% of their local representatives were over-delivering on their sales targets. Sector Alarm is now planning to roll this out across other countries as well that they're operating in. We also know that retail orders get returned, hotel rooms get canceled, and payment details could have been wrong at the time of purchase. You can utilize conversion adjustments to retract conversions or restate values. This works for tag-based Google Ads conversion tracking and offline conversion tracking. The rule is that the total sum of adjusted conversions should be less than 10% value of total reported conversions. And you, as an advertiser, have the ability to adjust them for up to 55 days. If the total sum is higher than 10%, we recommend adjusting values if possible within the first 2 days. When should you use conversion adjustments versus adjusting the value beforehand? Use it with refunds or canceled orders. For example, a car reservation being canceled or clothes that don't fit are returned. You can also use it with changing orders. If a customer orders a quantity of 2, however, returns one of the 2. And you can use it to optimize lifetime value when you want to look at user behavior in the first few weeks after a sign-up. Values are adjusted with conversion value rules or during an import when you want to optimize to lifetime value, but you can do adjustments based on prior knowledge of users. For example, knowing that users from one region have a higher lifetime value than others. Also, when you see that certain leads drive higher value than others and adjust accordingly. And finally, if you run low on inventory, you can adapt values to be lower until you have sufficient resources. For offline imported conversions, you can assign values before they're imported using factors you're currently measuring. For example, an electricity provider may want to adjust their conversion value of a lead based on factors that customers entered on their website. These factors might include household size, location, or historical electricity usage. What does that process look like? The conversion event happens. Certain traits of the lead indicate higher or lower profitability. You adjust the conversion value prior to the import, and Google Ads will then bid higher or lower in the auction dependent on your input. At last, let's talk about the final step. Your tagging is set up correctly, you have all the needed conversion actions, and the values assigned to it are flowing into Google Ads. When and how should you switch to value-based bidding? Before transitioning to value-based bidding, we recommend uploading conversion values for 4 weeks or 3 conversion cycles, whichever is longer. This will allow smart bidding to train on the new data. In some cases, switching to conversion value may increase your average conversion cycle. Use Path Metrics report to check how long it takes. We also recommend utilizing your performance planner for a smooth transition to value-based bidding. Create a new plan for the next month and include all campaigns driving toward a similar marketing objective. Select conversion value as your key metric to forecast the estimated total conversion value at various ROAS targets and spend scenarios. After 2 conversion cycles, create a new plan in the performance planner to identify optimal budget and target bid settings to maximize gains from increased efficiencies. You may have headroom to grow at a similar ROAS now that you're bidding more efficiently towards your conversion value goal, or you may identify an opportunity for profitable growth at a more relaxed ROAS target. If you are switching to a new conversion action for value-based bidding, do so in 2 steps. First, you do the transition to the new conversion action. Then, wait for 4 weeks in order for data to accumulate. After those 4 weeks, switch to value-based bidding. For example, if you're bidding to lead form submission on target CPA and want to bid to qualified leads on a target ROAS, transition to qualified leads on CPA first. You can begin passing the values while bidding to CPA prior to enabling value-based bidding. Adhere to best practices at each step. Include the conversion action in the conversions column and remove the existing one if desired in order to add the new conversion action on top. Set your budget to 1.2 times your historical daily spend. Additionally, if you're transitioning to a new conversion action with a lower volume of conversions, gradually adjust targets over the 4-week period. Import conversion values for 4 weeks or the 3 conversion cycles on a conversion action included in conversions. After 4 weeks or 3 conversion cycles, as mentioned, whichever is longer, transition from your existing bidding strategy to value-based bidding. If you set a ROAS target, use the recommended target at opt-in and keep budgets unconstrained to maximize volume at your targets. If you are transitioning to a new conversion action with lower volume, your CPA might increase. Taking campaign B as an example. Your new conversion action has 10 times lower volume, meaning the CPA increases tenfold. How do you approach this? You need to gradually lower the CPA target to allow the algorithm to adjust. So, in the first 3 days, adjust the CPA from 50 to 200. Adjust CPA from 200 to 350 in the next 3 days. Then, adjust CPA from 350 to 500 by day 9. There are a number of best practices to keep in mind throughout this switch. Report data for at least 4 weeks or 3 conversion cycles, whichever is longer, before evaluating performance. Leave the first 4 to 7 days of data out of the evaluation since this is the initial learning phase. Evaluate performance when you have over 50 conversions per month. If using ROAS target, uncap budgets to drive incremental volume at your targets. If using maximize conversion value without a ROAS target, ensure that budgets are in line with your daily spend goals. And use recommended ROAS at time of opt-in or historical performance of at least 30 days of your conversion value over cost. Reduce additional campaign changes whenever possible. Here's a reminder of all the Google solutions we mentioned that can help you in each step along the way. In Module 3, we'll discuss using value-based bidding for lead generation. If your business generates leads, you may have longer conversion cycles with offline conversion actions. So your data tracking is more complex and conversion delays are longer than in online businesses. Every business has a unique lead-to-sale journey. It is crucial to map the journey in order to understand which conversion actions you can use to maximize performance with Google Ads. It helps to import the entire conversion funnel, as this allows for stronger visibility in your Google Ads account. However, make sure to use a single conversion action for bidding optimization. If you're not able to report dynamic values for each lead, you can start with static values. Here's an example of how you can calculate them. Let's assume that an average deal for you is 5,000 euros. You also calculate that about 1 in 4 sales qualified leads turns into a deal. That means that a sales qualified lead is worth 1/4 of 5,000 or equal to 1,250 euros. Now, if 1 in 2 marketing qualified leads turns into a sales qualified lead, that makes marketing qualified lead worth 625 euros. And if 5% of overall leads are qualified by marketing, that makes them worth 31 euros. You can also use rule-based values. For example, assigning different values for leads with high and low risk scores. It's always best to optimize towards the conversion that is most representative of your business goal. But in case your sales cycle is very long and sales volume is quite limited, it might make sense to optimize towards mid-funnel, like marketing or sales qualified leads. Depending on your customer journey, it makes sense to import different conversion actions in different ways. 1. Import online conversion actions by using G-Tag or Google Tag Manager. 2. Utilize conversion tracking to import click leads to different phone calls. 3. Implement a lead form extension via Google Ads to import leads from ads. 4. Use enhanced conversion for leads or custom CRM integrations to bring in final sales values. Let me walk you through this last solution, enhanced conversions for leads. When a user clicks on an ad, lands on your site, and submits a web form, a hashed user ID, for example, an email, is sent back to Google. When a lead status changes in your CRM and you upload that information into Google, that conversion is then matched back to the ad. Enhanced conversions for leads is built on the Google tag and offers benefits like durable, more accurate reporting, engaged view conversions, cross-device conversions, and easier data importing methods. Let's look at a case study. MVF is one of the leading customer generation platforms for B2B based in the UK. Due to data errors, reliability issues, and long sales cycles from various suppliers, which could take weeks or months to complete, they were struggling to understand the final value of each customer. To address this challenge, they developed a predictive lead quality metric by analyzing patterns from historical data on nearly 1 million B2B leads and identifying key attributes correlated with client success, such as email and company name matching, active phone numbers, purchase urgency, and customer satisfaction scores. By assigning scores to leads based on these indicators and uploading this data to Google Ads, MVF was able to guide Performance Max campaigns with value-based bidding. This innovative approach led to a substantial 45% increase in average predicted lead quality, a 37% increase in ROAS, and an impressive 80% appointment rate for clients. That was quite a complex project that required buy-in from executives and a culture shift across the organization. Now, let's talk about omnichannel bidding scenarios. Regardless of the channels you're using, it's crucial to measure data across all of them for the algorithm to have a full picture of your customer journey. Assess all your sales channels, all the ways customers can purchase your products or services. This includes websites, physical stores, and apps. Once that's done, bring the data from these channels to your bidding platform. This will allow the algorithm to optimize value for your entire business. How do you optimize for offline sales? A number of digital micro-conversions, such as page visits or newsletter signups, can lead to a store visit and eventually a store sale. Online and offline consumer journeys are often intertwined. Not every user who sees your ad online will check out on the website. Some may prefer to pick up the product in store to save on delivery, get the product faster, or see it in person before committing. They might look up your store location and hours, get directions, and eventually visit. Attributing these conversions to your marketing is crucial for a full understanding of its impact. There are two approaches to optimize towards offline behavior. The one is to optimize towards store goals, separate from online, which is allocation of budgets solely to physical locations and a focus on only offline KPIs with a specific campaign targeting in-store products or promotions. The second approach is to optimize with an omnichannel approach, including store visits and sales into total conversion values. This means you adapt to dynamic customer behaviors across both online and offline. While Google Tag can help you capture online revenue, including store visit measurement will help you to understand the full omnichannel impact of your Google Ads and prove the full effectiveness of your marketing efforts. We see multiple brands have success with omnichannel bidding strategies. Here's just one of the latest examples. Italian fashion brand called InTrend incorporated store visits into their value-based bidding and tested it against a control campaign. They saw an increase in both omnichannel revenue and online revenue. They're aware of the impact of digital marketing on in-store sales for a while, but with this approach, they could finally estimate it with confidence. Worth noting that smart bidding with store visits or store sales values automatically adapt to shifts between online and offline demand. And if you use local campaigns, you can reach clients along the customer journey with conversion values coming from store visits, call clicks, or driving direction. Now, let's look at measuring store visits and sales. Important omnichannel conversions to measure are online sales. This is done via G-Tag or Google Tag Manager. Store visits. For this, use average sale value as an action. And store sales. This is when customers make purchases in your store directly. How do store visits get measured? When a customer is signed in and opted into a location history, we can attribute their click on an ad to their store visit. You can then use surveys to validate that data and then extrapolate this data to the population with aggregated, anonymized data. And how do store sales get measured? Here you see three distinct approaches to measuring store sales within Google Ads, each offering increasing levels of granularity and insight. First, store sales default values. This is your basic method. It relies on Google's modeling based on ad interactions, surveys, and store visits. It uses a default sales value, usually your average order value. This approach doesn't require additional data uploads. Secondly, your automated store sales dynamic values. These are based on Google's modeling for both visits and value using receipts data. No additional setup is required, but segmentation and custom insights are unavailable. Thirdly, store sales dynamic values through uploads. This is recommended and is the most powerful method, requiring you to upload your own sales data. This enables granular reporting with custom variables like brand, customer type, and profitability, plus customer matching for deeper analysis. All data is aggregated and anonymized to protect user privacy. Now I will explain to you how to calculate the value of your store visits. There are three main metrics: store visit conversion value, the estimated value generated by each store visit; in-store purchase rate, the percentage of store visitors who make a purchase; and in-store average order value, the average amount spent by customers who make a purchase in-store. To calculate store visit conversion value, multiply in-store purchase rate by in-store average order value. So, for example, if 70% of visitors make a purchase and the average order value is 300 euros, then the store visit conversion value is 210 euros. If you cannot track store visits directly, utilize local actions like phone calls and driving directions to gauge the value of online ads. Calculate the value of calls by multiplying the call conversion rate, calls leading to a purchase, with the in-store average order value. Similarly, apply the same formula to driving directions or strategically assign them double the value of calls to guide local campaign optimization. Remember, the default value for these actions is $1, so adjust it based on your specific business data. While calculating store visit value based on in-store purchases is ideal for maximizing overall return on ad spend, ROAS, you can strategically adjust this value to achieve specific business goals. With online-focused approach, set a lower store visit value to prioritize online conversions over in-store visits. With a balanced omnichannel approach, use the calculated store visit value to optimize for both online and offline conversions. Or use a store-centric approach. Set a higher store visit value to drive more foot traffic to your physical stores, especially during reopenings, sales, or events. Conversion value rules offer enhanced flexibility in managing store visits and sale values within Google Ads. They allow for customization beyond a single account level setting, enabling you to set campaign level default values, assign distinct store visit sales values to different campaigns based on product price, margin, or other factors, adjust dynamic values by percentages, fine-tune dynamic values across the entire account or specific campaigns to prioritize business goals. For example, prioritizing e-commerce sales growth. Remember, general conversion value rules apply uniformly to all conversion actions, including store visits and sales. Now that you have successfully transitioned to value, let's talk about understanding and troubleshooting performance. You can use the Bid Strategy report in the Tools section of your Google Ads account to gain deeper insights into bidding performance and troubleshoot issues. It can show you how your bid strategy is performing on average against the set target, if that's applicable, and when your strategy might need attention. Remember to assess over longer periods of time, like a month or at least with 50 conversions. Bid strategy status at the top will show whether your bidding is active, learning, or experiences some issues, so you can troubleshoot if needed. Top Signals feature highlights some of the dimensions your bid strategy is optimizing for. Top signals may include things like bidding higher for desktop users from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. on workdays. Conversion delay shows how long it takes most of your users to convert. Wait until all your conversions have been reported before evaluating the performance of your bid strategy. Simulators can help estimate changes to performance when you change your target or your daily budget. You can get a more aggregated view of your bidding strategy with the account-level bidding reports. Now, let's talk about troubleshooting some common issues you might encounter. First, let's talk about the fluctuations in performance. Some campaign performance variance is absolutely normal. It might happen due to auction dynamics, and no action is required in these cases. However, sustained spikes or drops may be a sign that other elements are impacting the performance. We suggest using explanations to find out quickly what is happening. You can hover over the highlighted values and see explanations pop up. Explanations will show whether fluctuations can be explained by changes in specific ad groups or keywords, or indicate other causes such as competitive shifts or changes made to the account or changes in user search behavior. Some other key issues we see are low conversion rates, seasonality, or data outages. In case you don't see a lot of conversions, it is worth checking whether your tracking is working properly. Another thing to check is whether your target ROAS is too high and what is the total value you drove. You can use Bid Simulator tool to estimate whether your target ROAS is optimal. It is based on historical data and shows how much conversion value you could have created with various target ROAS targets. Note that this is projections, and they're available only to advertisers whose spend and target settings allow Google to make those estimates. Smart bidding can adjust to regular mild seasonality, but if you expect big short events that will significantly impact your performance, like promotions or sales, you can let your smart bidding know in advance. A good use case for that is Black Friday weekend, when you've historically seen plus 30% in conversion rates. Don't use it for a similar promotional day every week or every 5 days or an entire holiday season or prolonged events. Seasonality adjustments can be applied by selecting the adjustments function in your budgets and bidding tool. Was your conversion tracking broken? The conversion count got inflated due to a tag firing incorrectly, or maybe you couldn't upload offline data for a certain period of time. If you have experienced a data issue, use data exclusions. You can tell Smart Bidding to ignore all data from a particular date range. Don't forget about the conversion delay. For example, you had a data upload issue from October 15th to the 18th, and the conversion delay is 5 days. It's recommended to apply the exclusion as quickly as possible and make sure to cover any days with potentially impacted clicks. So, in this case, we'd suggest you exclude October 10th to the 18th. Avoid backfilling the data. Exclusions can be applied by selecting the same adjustments function in your budgets and bidding tool. Bidding is an important but just one component of maximizing value. To make the most of it, work on creating the environment of testing hypotheses, learning from your experiments, and scaling best practices. I always encourage the people I work with to look at themselves as true researchers. First, let's talk about the account hygiene. It's not necessary to change your account structure to adopt AI-powered ad solutions like value-based bidding. But improving the structure can ease the implementation and drive better performance over time. Complex account structures with a lot of duplication can hinder AI performance. Segmented campaigns or ad groups with their own bid strategies and targets can prevent smart bidding from optimizing towards a more efficient conversion in another campaign or an ad group, resulting in a higher marginal cost per conversion. It also impacts the relevance of your creatives and keyword targeting. To optimize your account structure, we suggest consolidating campaigns and ad groups to reflect your business structure. Combine all ad groups that share a common theme and can use the same ad and landing page. Then, combine all campaigns that share a common goal and can use the same budget and bid strategy. Merge your keywords with the same text, upgrade to broad match, and simplify your keyword variations. According to our analysis, advertisers that switch their phrase keywords to a broad match in target ROAS campaigns can see 12% uplift in conversion value. Use portfolio strategies to consolidate campaigns that have the same value goal and supply value-based bidding with volume. You can pair portfolio bidding with shared budgets so that smart bidding can efficiently spread spend across your campaigns to maximize performance. Demand will fluctuate. Competitors might be changing their strategy. Whatever happens, you can react quickly by staying agile. Here are our 6 principles of a good testing environment. First of all, be clear on your testing goal. Write it down and share it with the wider team so there are no disagreements afterwards. For example, we're going to test value-based bidding versus target CPA bidding in campaign X and compare revenue results. Secondly, define your one key success metric so there's no confusion or temptation to misinterpret the results of a test. If you want to drive more revenue, that should be your metric. You shouldn't be comparing CPCs, CPAs, or a number of conversions to define success of that experiment. Thirdly, define what testing strategy you'd like to use. That can be an A/B test or a geo-based incrementality test, etc. Remember that each methodology has its drawbacks and limitations. For example, pre- and post-tests might be affected by changes in market conditions. A/B testing is the best way to test value-based bidding versus other bidding strategies. Fourth, don't test just for the sake of testing. Predefine what steps will be taken if the results of the test are successful. For example, if VBB experiment is successful in driving more revenue, we will scale it to other campaigns. Fifth, launch a test and hold your nerve. Monitor the experiment, but let it run its course. We recommend at least 4 weeks plus the conversion delay. Then finally, scale successful experiments gradually, adjusting targets or adopting new solutions in 10 to 30% increments at a time. Campaign experiments allow for you to test value-based bidding against your existing bid strategy. First, pick one campaign. Make sure it meets their requirements. Secondly, use the same conversion actions for your trial, arm, and then split traffic 50-50. Enable experiment sync so that any changes that you're making in one campaign reflect in the other campaign. Avoid making big changes generally though. Generally, when switching, we recommend not using target ROAS. However, if you do so, ensure that targets and changes are in line with the CPA targets to ensure a fair test. In case the trial arm is slow to ramp up, lower the target ROAS to increase auction eligibility. You can also use the multi-campaign experiments beta if you are wanting to test multiple campaigns at once. Last but not least, implement best budgeting practices. Do not lock your budgets in specific channels. Adapt your spend in response to changing conditions. Many agile marketers review their budgets monthly or even more frequently. Make sure you collaborate with other teams to agree on KPIs, obtain data, and manage budget allocations. Your agency partners and your finance teams play an important role in the decision on setting the right budgets. Agree on quick and regular budget approval processes, including securing experiment budgets. Final takeaways. If you care more about value than volume, consider a switch to VBB. Collect the data, pass values to the bidding algorithm, then switch gradually to VBB. Let bidding optimize towards the most important conversions, wherever they take place. Start with a simple setup such as bidding towards revenue or proxy values, and then improve over time with a learning mindset. Use reporting options available to regularly monitor performance and adapt if necessary. Thank you so much for your attention. Please let us know if that was helpful using the feedback form attached. We have provided a lot of additional materials for you to use. And as always, your Google team is here to support you.